Hello and welcome to Learn Python 3 the Hard Way, Exercise 8. We're going to be doing more printing, and as usual, you should have already typed this in. You don't need to see me type text. You can type text just fine. Now, if you remember in Exercise 7, we did this format there. And that's an alternative to the F strings. The F strings, at the time of the publishing of this book, were fairly new. So you'll still run into Python code, Python 3 code, that has this style of formatting, calling this function. So I want you to be familiar with it. So what we're doing in Exercise 8 is kind of a brain teaser. And also sort of practicing the concept that you can take one Python thing and you can put it or use it with any other Python thing. So in this case, what we're doing is I'm using... Where'd it go? I'm using formatter, this string up here. And you notice I haven't done anything to it. I haven't done format or anything like that to it. Right? Because you have a string and you call dot format, then you can format it with variables. And it doesn't have an F. Okay, so this is how you solve the problem where you want to have a string that's formatted, like a string for a template or a message you're going to print out. But you want to apply variables to it randomly or at a later date. So then each of these lines does that same thing. All it's doing is we're taking the formatter string, right? We know we can take a variable and do stuff to it. In Exercise 7, I could call dot format on the string. And you haven't really got to the stage where you learn what call means. But just trust me for now, what you're doing is you're basically telling this string to do a format. It's the easiest way for you to understand it right now. Don't feel like you have to totally know what that is. It's kind of a jump. Remember I told you in the book, there's spots where there's things that might make you jump a bit, might make you work a little harder. So in this case, working a little harder, we're thinking in terms of, I've got a formatter string up here, and I'm using the dot to tell it to format. So that's what you want to think about it. So we're going to format the formatter again with 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'll do is I'm going to flip back to PowerShell. And what you're going to see is up at the top, this very first one is 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I go back to here, I can do the strings 1, 2, 3, 4. And then going back to PowerShell, you see those strings show up. And on the left over here, though, I haven't typed this over and over again. I'm just reusing it each time. Then some new stuff you'll run into later, but just to kind of give you a taste. True, false, false, and true. And we see that again. And now to really make it weird, we have the formatter put into the formatter 4 times. So really think about that one. Think of this as like a puzzle. It's totally all right if you go through this and you're a little confused, you don't quite know what's going on. But what we're trying to do is just get you to sort of see that and be primed for when we cover it later. So we take the formatter and we put it in the formatter 4 times. Very tricky. So when we do that, we look, we see 4 times. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 formatters right there. And then the last one, we're doing 4 lines like this. It's a very long format, but we can do that. We can start a parentheses there. We can do each of the things we want to format, and they'll get each plugged into this part, this part, this part, and this part. Just like if we were doing F strings with variables. So once we have all that, you're supposed to go through and do the checks that you did or the study drill you did from 7. I showed you a little bit of that, typing the English comments, doing all that stuff. And then what you want to do is also make sure you're going in and breaking it. Now we have a new way to break things. We have this new operator here. So if we get rid of that, we suddenly have a different syntax. So knowing what we know about Python, we should get an invalid syntax error. We know that. What are other ways that we can break these things? Well, there's really interesting things to think about. Pause the video right now and try to break this. And then I'm going to sit down. I'm going to actually try to break it after you try. So give it a shot. Okay, so you've tried to break it. Now, I'm going to break it in a few other ways. I'm going to try as many ways as I can think to break this and see if you found this many. So I can do that. I think we've done that one before. Yeah, so the format string is invalid. What if we got rid of one of these? Okay, let's see. Yep, see, that's interesting. It doesn't really break it. We don't get an error, a value error, or a syntax error or anything. We just get less variables printed out. So Python sort of eats that final argument over here, this last thing. So see if you did that one. What's another one we can do? Oh, we have the classic. We can do this. That's going to get a syntax error. We have the classic. We can break the string. That's going to get a syntax error. Okay. What's some other ones? That deadly Atom trying to help me. What are some other ones? Yeah, we can attempt to lowercase that. See what that gives us. One of those. False is not defined. Let's do that. Let's see, what else do we have? We can try and what's some other things we can do? Obviously, I can drop a a comma here. Let's see what that does. Tuple index out of range. Yeah, that's another error we probably haven't ran into. Let's see, index error. Yeah, okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's trying to read. Now here we can do a little detective work. So we miss this comma. You know, it's easy. We just miss this little comma here. So what happens is, I'm going to bet, let's see, tuple index out of range basically means the format expects 4 arguments, but we only have 3, I'm going to guess. So let's see if we can debug this. I like this error because we can debug it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say lines equal, and then I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to grab this like that. Okay. To sort of simulate that. And then I'm going to go lines. Now I'm going to go asterisk lines. Now that's a little magic. You wouldn't really be able to know that at this point, but just trust me. We're just going to see what this is. All right, now we make sure we have the same error after we kind of move stuff around. Index tuple out of range. Okay, so we got the same error. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go lines is lines. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, oh, and you know what? I'm going to do this. Here's another thing to help you out. If you do repr, that's the representation that Python has. So this is going to be raw. Like that. And what do we see? I was right. So see, because we take that comma out, see that? Try your own text here, okay? Now we come over here. We see try your no comma. So Python takes the next line and it combines those 2 strings into one string. That means our list, our arguments are really only 3. 1, 2, and 3. So that's why we got that error. That's an example of debugging it. Let me see if I can do another way to debug the same thing. Okay, we're back to where we were before. I'm going to run it again. Let's try this way. So this would be one that you could figure out. I was kind of using some special things there. So I'm going to go like this. I could also have just done this. Copy that and do print. Oh, like that. So now I'm calling print with whatever I passed the formatter. Now let's check that out. And see, now I have the same text. It's all smashed together. And that's why we have the thing. So it's the same output. We could have also kind of come in here and, we know like that. And we can see that same thing. So here's our debug output. Okay, so that's a demonstration of doing some debugging combined with breaking things, and also breaking things in an interesting way. Maybe you found more than me. I'm just kind of doing a quick, walking through to give you some ideas. But what you want to be able to do at this stage is print variables to find out what's going on, what's wrong, break stuff so you see common errors that you're going through, and be able to write comments above lines of code so you can sort of get used to translating code to English or your language and back. All right, that's the end of exercise 8. Let's move on to exercise 9 when you are ready.